And welcome back to Game Escape. Today I am very excited to do a video that I've wanted to do for quite some time now, and that is talk about Mahjong video games. Over the years I have been importing a lot of games from Japan, and one of the genres that always stood out to me was this Mahjong video game genre. I knew nothing about it, and just out of curiosity I decided to pick up a few titles and try to learn this game. I mean, it was almost kind of like a pride thing. I had seen examples of it online, and it looked incredibly complicated, and I set out to learn what I could about this game and about this genre of video gaming, and I came away really loving these games. And I think that given time and patience and the willingness to learn, a lot of people out there could really get in to Mahjong video games. So I thought I would just do a video and talk about the game itself and discuss a couple of the games out there that you can pick up and try your hand at. Now, as a Western gamer and as a non-Japanese speaking gamer, there were some downsides to this genre for me, and I really think that anyone out there who is interested in Mahjong will have to deal with a very, very high barrier to entry. You have the language barrier. Most of these games are entirely in Japanese, a lot of kanji, and then you also have to deal with the complex rule set of Japanese Mahjong, and the fact that you will need to know some katakana to figure out the different commands and the different game scenarios that present themselves throughout the course of a game. Now, this is manageable with a little bit of study and also just a little bit of repetition in playing these games. And then you'll have to deal with tile memorization and sequence memorization. The number tiles in the game, they're actually numbers written in Japanese, and you just have to memorize, well, in kanji anyway, and then you just have to memorize the sequence. You have to also memorize the sequences in wind tiles and dragon tiles, and then at least have a basic understanding of what consists of a high-value hand and how to put them together. But on top of that, these games are hard to find in the United States and Western Europe. And, this is real Mahjong. This is not the tile matching game. So if you go on eBay, you will see a lot of quote-unquote Mahjong games, but those are not the... those games are not representing the Japanese game. But I think, despite all of this, you do have some tremendous upsides. Once you learn these rules, the game itself, that's just Mahjong in general, and a lot of these titles that I'm going to show you, these games are endlessly fun. And I found myself coming back to them again and again if I had some time to kill, or I just wanted, it was the case with some of these games, a fairly hefty challenge. There are so many different variations on the game of Mahjong in the hundreds of video game titles out there. Mahjong has appeared on every console in Japan and on smartphones, computers. This is a widely played game. It's extremely popular. And each game that you will find has a slightly different take on Mahjong as far as the objectives and the play styles, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. These games are fun on the road in particular, so I'll show you some portable Mahjong games that I find to be very, very good. Now, I just want to note a few things. What I'm going to try to do in this video is explain the rules of Mahjong as they apply to video games. And these rules and this description I'm offering to you is they are really not sufficient for playing the game in real life against real human opponents, because video games usually automate things like score calculation, seat wind allocation, wall building, and some other aspects of the game. So video game Mahjong is actually much easier to play despite this barrier of entry that I was talking about. And I'll put a lot of links in the description to some great internet sites that really explain the rules of real Mahjong in depth, so should you be interested in that. Before we begin, I think that I need to also point out that Mahjong video games are almost always based on the Japanese version of the game called Riichi Mahjong, which differs pretty significantly from the traditional Chinese game, which I believe goes all the way back to the time of Confucius, and also pretty significantly from American Mahjong, which you may or may not be familiar with, that seems to be popular amongst retirees traditionally. The Japanese version, this Riichi version, allows players, amongst other things, to announce when they are one tile away from winning. This is called a reach, or Riichi. And it also incorporates elements of luck, such as the Dora tile, which is kind of a lucky tile that increases your score if you have it in your hand. And, as you will see, there's the pond of discards that you place in front of you, which gives some clues as to what tiles you might need to win. The first step that is necessary for playing Mahjong is to really familiarize yourself with the tiles. There are 3 sets of number tiles and 7 honor tiles, the 3 dragons and the 4 winds. And some games also use red 5s of these 3 number tiles, which count as an extra Dora or lucky tile if they're used in your hand. So basically you pick up an extra 1,000 points if you have these red tiles. Again, if you look at the links below, you will find sites that explain all of these different tiles. And when I say number tiles, you actually have the character tiles, starting with the single horizontal line, and moving up. Those are just basically the numbers 1 through 9. Then you have the green little cylinders. These are the bamboo tiles. And then you have the blue and red dots. Those are the pin tiles. And the number of pins correspond, or the number of bamboos correspond to that number tile. So if it's 3 bamboos, it's 3. The goal of Mahjong is to create a winning hand consisting of 14 tiles. That's 4 groupings of 3 and 1 pair. Groupings of 3 can be a sequence, such as 3, 4, 5. This is called a chi. Or simply 3 of a kind, such as 5, 5, 5, which is called a pawn. In any given game, one player is the dealer and begins with 14 tiles, from which he must discard 1 to start the game. Every player then draws tiles from the wall and then discards a tile from his hand. To win, you must complete a hand by drawing your 14th tile, which will give you the victory. If you're the dealer, which is the east wind seat, and we'll see that a little bit later on, you get paid a premium for winning or losing. So if you're in the position of the dealer, and that will happen in every game, the stakes are higher. So we've been looking at some footage from Yakuza 4, which actually has a Mahjong game built in. And I'm just going to go over to the normal table here and play around and, again, kind of explain some of the principles we've talked about and just give some other hints. So we're going to begin the game. And there's my hand. So you notice the tile that was flipped over in the middle of the screen, that's a 7 pin tile, which means the lucky tile is an 8. So I want to hold on to that. And again, we're going through the process of discarding. And here I'm going to remove the 8 bamboo. And so the chow, the vocabulary here is a little bit different. A chow is a chi, a chow is the sequence 3, 4, 5. So I have that in my hand. And again, that's going to come up every time a player has a tile that I can take to complete a sequence that's in my hand. The game is going to notify me. I'm denying all of these because one of the basic rules, and there you see, by the way, is a pung that would be, again, 3 of a kind. And I'm denying all of these because if you open your hand, in other words, if I accept one of those tiles, the value of my hand decreases most of the time. So I'm pretty much going to deny that. As you can see here, this is not a particularly great hand. I'm waiting on that lucky tile, see if I can get it. And now I'm getting close to the end. What you can do here is, and I have chosen not to do that, is to accept these basic requests to open up my hand to get to a situation where I'm 1 away from winning. If I'm in that situation at the end of a match, I actually get a payment. If I'm 1 away from winning and the other 3 players are not, they each pay me 1,000 points. So that's a pretty decent payoff. If myself and another opponent are 1 away, it's 1,500. Now this game was a draw, and so we're going to see that here. Again, I was 1 away, so I got, in this case, 1,500. So now my lucky tile is a 2. And one of the other strategies, and you'll see me do this throughout, I just discarded the west wind, I discarded a 9. One of the strategies is to basically get rid of your honor tiles. When I say honor tiles, those are the dragons and the winds, if I can't do anything with them. And then get rid of 1s and 9s, because it makes your discards pretty difficult to read. Now, I'm not in a bad spot here. I've got a 2, 3, 4, and 5. I've got a 5, 6. I've got a 1, 2, 3, or a 2, 3, 4 of the bamboos. One of the other strategies is to arrange the tiles in your hand such that you're waiting, you have what they call in the game a 2-sided wait. So let's take a look at my 5 and 6 over on the right hand side of my hand. I can get a chi, I can get a sequence by getting either a 4 or a 7. So if my hand is in a position to win, I can win on 2 tiles instead of 1. And now I've called the Ricci here, as has another opponent. When I do that, I can no longer rearrange my hand. Okay, so I am waiting, and I got the tile that I need from the other opponent. That's called a ron. And what that means is that that opponent has to pay me the entire value of my hand, and you're seeing the valuations. Here we don't have to worry about what fan and fu means for the purposes of just learning the game, but he paid me directly. So what you want to do from a defensive standpoint is never deal in to somebody else's hand, because if they have a huge hand, an 8,000 point hand, a 12,000 point hand, you're losing all of that. Whereas if they win on a self draw, then the other 3 players have to pay the winnings, have to separate out the winnings between the 3 of them. Again, here I have a 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the greens of the bamboo tiles. I have a 7, 8, 9 of the pins. I've got a 4 and 6. What I've done here is I've actually opened up my hand by grabbing a green dragon. And if you grab 3 of a white, green, or red dragon, that is a winning condition. So if you want to win quickly, you can do that. And I almost see it kind of like a Ricci. I'm just letting the other players know that, you know, now I'm being aggressive. I can win here. And we'll see what happens. So I've got the 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8. Now I have drawn the 6. That is a self-drawn victory. It's not a super high value hand. Basically, it was just the greens, but you know, I'm increasing my points, and in this case, I'm out ahead. Now here's the situation. I have the west tile, which means that the north is the lucky tile. The north is the tile that was just discarded by in a slumped Nobu. The first one, it kind of looks like an N. And here I've got 2 red dragons, 2 west winds. I'm going to hold on to that lucky tile, that N-looking tile. That's the north wind. Again, not a great hand. Sometimes the key to winning is, in a sense, knowing when to give up. This hand is not going to do much for me. So, just trying to figure out what I want to discard here. And I get rid of the 2. And all of the time I'm not very good at this, but I'm trying to read my opponent's discards and figure out what is safe to discard and what is not. The way you can do that is to look at any one tile that they've discarded and add or subtract 3. So let's look at this 8 that was just discarded by in a slump Nobu. Again, I'm trying to go for a quick win here if possible. He discarded the 8 bamboo. So I would think that the 5 bamboo or the 2 bamboo is safe to discard. You can do that to any tile that's discarded here, and you'll put yourself in a good defensive position most of the time. Now, I am really not one away here as this round ends, so this is a draw. But again, I'm gonna get a payment, and I've won the game by, in this case, playing a defensive game of Mahjong. So I'll end the tutorial portion of my video here, but check back for part 2, where I will give an overview of some of the popular games in the genre. Thanks for watching.